Hey BookTube, so I'm back for another video, and this video is going to be a bit of a guilty confession. Let's say that. Because a while ago I made a video saying, am I buying too many books? That was a question that I asked. I had a few Russian sex bots on here on BookTube respond to me, and I did a video replying to them. And the whole idea was that behind that video was that I felt kind of gross accumulating so many books. So many books, and I'm not reading them at a fast pace. And that obviously means that my library is going way bigger than I can keep up with. And the problem with that is that, for me at least, is that I want to read these books. I want to read them, and I love reading and rereading and living in these books. And I buy them because I'm excited for them. I don't buy them because I just want this huge library of potential books to read. I want a library that I've read and loved, and a book, a library that means something to me other than just mindlessly collecting. And so that was an important thing for me, and that's the question that generated that video. And I've been a good boy since then. I have not purchased any books until recently. But there's two parts to it. Um, Two parts to it. One is that I actually ordered a bunch of books before I made that video. Um, I ordered a whole box of books from the Yale University Press uh, discount, online discount that they did this past May, I believe. And see, in May, I believe, Princeton and Yale University Press did a 50% off their entire website catalog of books on their website. And a lot of people here on BookTube took advantage of that and made videos about it. Um, and I took advantage of that too, though only took advantage of the Yale one, and for obvious reasons, because they offered free shipping to Canada, whereas Princeton does not. And for me, I have to factor in the conversion rates for Canada, because I'm Canadian, I live in Canada, and uh, all the prices there are in US dollars, and the US dollar is much better than the Canadian dollar, and that means all my prices are more expensive than the prices that you see on their online price catalog. So I have to mentally keep in mind that conversion rate, but then also if there is shipping to Canada is extremely expensive, and so for me, if I buy from Princeton, even at 50% off, I'm not really saving any money. I could just easily buy them from Amazon and for at full price for free shipping from Amazon, and it would be no different. And so I didn't. I left that one be. But the Yale University Press one, I did. Uh, I intentionally bought books that were either a little bit more obscure or more expensive on Amazon, and where I'm actually saving money. Uh, and So the average came out to paying around $21 a book. And for these academic books, if you look at their price on Amazon, you'll see that that was quite a steal, at least in my mind. And so I purchased them, and it took about a few weeks for them to come in, and in those few weeks I had made that video. But I figured I would show you those books that I got from Yale. So these are the good boy books, the books that I bought before I made that video. But then recently I went to a thrift store, and my intention was to look at everything but the books. But that was impossible. My self-control went down the toilet as soon as I walked in to the front doors, and I bought some books, and I'll show you those books, and I'll vow, and I'll, cross my heart, I'll never, I'll never buy books from a used bookstore again until I've bought or until I've read most of my library. Wink. Cross. Anyways, but then I also bought something else on Amazon, which I want to show you too. I bought this pillow. This is an enormous pillow that I bought that I've always envied. I've seen these before, I really like the concept. These are called reading pillows, or just this big fluffy pillow with armrests. And one of the things that has been a problem with my reading that no one ever really talks about is finding somewhere comfy to read. And I don't really have anywhere comfy to read. I read always sitting on my bed, but I always have a bunch of pillows propped up in all these weird places where as soon as I wake up, the whole thing just collapses. And then I have to rearrange it again or whatever, or it's not comfortable or whatever, and that distracts my reading. And then so having that huge pillow with the armrests and everything, I can literally just shove that against the wall and sit back, lean back, and I can just read, and I'm very comfortable. So very pleased about that. But here I'll get into the Yale books, the good boy books, and then we'll get into the thrift book haul, the bad boy books. Um, so I'll start off right away. Uh, there's a theme with the Yale books, but the theme is I think of what 4 or 5 books. Um, but I won't go and get into that theme right away. So I'll do the books that are not part of that theme first, and that's 3 books. The first book is a book of sociology called The Lonely Crowd. This is by David Reisman, but then it's got a with here too. So I don't know what the with. It says with Nathan Glazer and Denny. Ryu Denny. And this is probably one of the most classic works of sociology. This came out, I think, in the 60s or in the 50s. 1961. But the thing is, I don't know if I would have bought this if I had known that it says an abridged version. But it seems like but looking more into this, it seems like the abridged version is the main version that seems to be read and studied these days. And I don't know why that is, because it says this book was first abridged in the 60s. So was the original? What was wrong with the original? And I tried skimming some of the introduction and preface and whatnot, but none of them really gave me a clue. But then again, I only skimmed it, and then it's been updated since then. But this is a classic study. It's about it says the study of the changing American character, and I find the whole concept of that fascinating. It says considered one of the most influential books of the 20th century, The Lonely Crowd opened exciting new dimensions in our understanding of the problems confronting the individual in 20th century America. And it says it illuminates the Reisman's analysis of the middle class obsessed with how others lived still resonates in the age of social media. So the whole idea of individualism, of community, of living together, that whole concept fascinates me. And since I've been reading sociology this year anyways, so I'm not, it's not not completely new discipline to me. Getting a work of sociology like this, a classic work from the 60s, or from the 20th century, um, I figured I would pick this one up. Um, so we'll see what exactly I make of it. And then this next book here is a study of religion. It's about history and religion. It's by Brent Nongbri. This is Before Religion, and it's just a short little thing. It's called a history of a modern concept. And this one interests me because religion, just in general, fascinates me. The whole idea of religion. What is religion? What does it mean to believe in a religion? It's just fascinating to me. And then, of course, the history of religion, the history of the evolution of religion, or the whole concept of religion. It says, surveying representative episodes from a 2,000-year period, Brent Nongbri offers a concise and readable account of the emergence of the concept of religion. And it seems like it's religion in air quotes. What does it mean, and what do we point to when we think of religion? Because it seems to be a modern idea, more of a modern idea. Religion is like, when we call it religion, we separate it into this little isolated concept of religion, and we have all these norms and beliefs and whatever and rituals that surround that idea. But then when we think back to it, like, when did this concept emerge? Because religion used to be just daily life, used to be everything to people. even 1,000 years ago. But if you go even further than that to, say, the Greeks, ancient Greeks, and to some extent the ancient Romans, and even further back than that, religion isn't really religion. It's intertwined in a way that couldn't be separated by our modern concept of religion. Where we can say I'm religious or I'm not religious or I'm spiritual or whatever. It's it's something that was woven through every institution, through every way of life, through every way of thinking. Something that really couldn't be something that would be very different if you would say went 2,500 years ago, plucked an ancient Greek priest or even just a normal person during that time, and put them in our current day, how foreign a concept that would be for them. This idea of religion and a structured form of belief that was separated from different aspects of one's life. So I hope this one, even though it's very short, I hope this one really gives me an interesting discussion on that idea. But then again, it is very short, so how much can you really go into it? But then again, this is not a history of religion or history, it's a history of a concept. So I think that's an important uh, thing to keep in mind when going into that book. Then this next book is a book that's been on my TBR, not my TBR, my wish list as one of the books to get. But it's always so expensive on Amazon, and when I averaged out the price for all these books, it was around $21. That's about half the price this book would cost me if I bought it on Amazon or some other uh, retail book site for full price. And this is How Liberalism Works by Deirdre Nansen McCloskey. The subtitle here is How True Liberal Values Produce a Freer, More Equal, Prosperous World for All. And this one has been recommended by David Murphy for quite some time. In his old iteration of his channel, he recommended this book, and he recommended recently again in some of his newer videos. And this is right up my alley. Um, I cut my teeth on reading political thought on a book called Why Liberalism Failed by Patrick Deneen. And while that book, I kind of hold it at arm's length now. I don't hold it as gospel by any means. Book was published in 2018, and this book was published in 2019 by the same publisher. So I think this was in subtle response, um, though I don't believe Patrick Deneen is really mentioned in this book at all. Uh, but Why Liberalism Failed to Why Liberalism Works, I don't actually know that much about liberalism uh, as a historical concept or as a modern ideal, um, even though it seems to be just axiomatic at this point in our age. Everyone seems to know or just knee-jerk believe it and um, or knee-jerk reject it. And I want to learn about it, and I think I'll end up agreeing more than disagreeing with this book. At least I hope so. Um, I also have Deirdre McCloskey's at least two of the three volumes of uh, Bourgeois trilogy as ebooks. I'm still missing one because I only wait when they end up going on sale because I'm not going to spend full price for those. But that's another point. And then we get into the theme. The theme will be completely obvious here when I come to the first book here. The first book, the A is, it's the Reformation. I'll just say that. That's the theme. I have about 4 books, I believe, on the Reformation here. This is the Age of Reform from 1250 to 1550. So about a 300-year period here. And it says An Intellectual and Religious History of Late Medieval and Reformation Europe by Steve Osment, and this has a foreword by Carlos Eyre and Ronald Ritkers. And this is an older book, published in, when was it published? 1980. Yeah, so this is an older book published in 1980, and Carlos Eyre is author of a modern book, very much along the same lines as this, a book called Reformations. Christopher Russell can't stop talking about that book in basically every video. I'm thinking at this point, he should be wedded to that book because that book and him just can't seem to stop getting their hands off each other. But this is like a predecessor to that book. This is a I don't know how different it is, but this is like a modern reprint of that older book, and I think it'll be fascinating. It's right up my alley. Reformation, uh, an intellectual and religious history. Like, doesn't that sound riveting? To me, it does. To you, you're probably just rolling your eyes. It's not as thick as Carlos Ayer's book either. It's a lot shorter. How big is this book? Just around 400 pages? Yeah, 430 pages it looks like. Hey, that's actually got illustrations in it. Look at that. Some black and white illustrations. It doesn't have any color inset of photos, but it's got lots of illustrations in it. I like that. Nice. There's someone being burned at the stake. Yeah, I like that. Nice set of illustrations. Oh, another full one there. That's awesome. Next, we have a book by Peter Marshall. This is Heretics and Believers. This is a history of the English Reformation. So this is more Reformation history, but this one is specifically focused on England, where I think England probably had the most radical Reformation path. That's just me thinking about it on a cursory glance. I have not read as much on the Reformation as Christopher Russell has. So I could be wrong about that, especially since Luther and Erasmus and whatnot, they were all on the European continent, and we had the religious wars on the European continent. But it was Henry VIII and England that cut off their country from Rome and forged their own path. And this is part of that history, a history of the English Reformation. So you have all the important English figures here. Or actually, I don't think so. I think this is it's a illustration of Thomas More and his household and descendants. So never mind. It's Thomas More, which I think is right. He's that guy right there, and it's just his house and descendants. Yeah. So English Reformation history, and this one's more of a chunkster, as you can see. And actually, all the rest of these are chunksters. They just get bigger and bigger in size. And then here's another book on the English Reformation. This is by G.W. Bernard. This is the King's Reformation. Huge book here, and it says Henry VIII and the remaking of the English Church. This is an older history as well, so this one actually is quite hard to find online, at least used. I've tried looking for this one used before, but it's very expensive, and brand new. I think this is over $50. 2005, so it's not actually that old. Not. I thought this was like 80s or 90s or something, but it's not. That's a really big book though. And this one does have a color inset of photos. This one does have a color inset. Some portraits. I think it's just got the one though. It doesn't have anything else. And this one clocks in at over 600 pages. So, this one, how much is the Heretics and Believers? That one is 680 or 580, so not that different. Though, actually, if you compare the size between the two, this one's quite oversized, as you can see. Or it's fairly oversized all the way around. And then we got one more book, and it's also on the Reformation, but this one is a biography. This is Dermot McCullough's biography of Thomas Cromwell. And this is the revised edition. So, big fat history, or big fat biography, really. I have his biography of, no, this is Thomas Cranmer. Sorry, Cranmer. Cromwell. I have his biography of Cromwell. But this is his biography of Cranmer, and Cranmer he was like the head of the church during Henry VIII's day, and his relationship with King Henry VIII was very weird. because he had some, strong disagreements or disputes with the king, but he survived with his head intact. While most people who had such disputes didn't. And also, there's a conspiracy around Cranmer where people who hated him tried to get him killed by the king, but the king stood by him all throughout his life. It wasn't until his succession um, came and the regent ended up killing him because the regent was more um, Calvinist in bent, and Cranmer stood in contrast to that, and so he was ended up killed for that. But um, yeah, big fat biography. It says I don't know why it was revised, or when it was revised. This book was published in 1990s, I think, or 1996, but then it was revised into 2016. So big fat biography, and that's it for the Good Boy book haul, um, where I was behaving and uh, hadn't made my public lament on uh, purchasing too many books, because these were purchased quite a while ago. But then we move on to, at the 21-minute mark, we move on to the Bad Boy book haul. And I'll start off with the mass market paperbacks. We start off with mass market of Dragonflight. This is the first book in Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight series. I think it's called, or no, Dragon Riders of Pern series. This is book number 1. Don't really like that sticker there, but publishers love to put on these annoying sticker-like things that completely ruin the cover art. But and it's right there on the spine too, just in case you want to get rid of it by trying to cover that. It's there again, staring back at you. But yeah, the cover artwork goes all the way around. Just a little mass market. I have this as an ebook with the modern cover, which the modern paperback has a beautiful cover. Just amazing cover of this dragon. It's really something to behold. I recommend you look it up. That's the edition I would want if I end up really liking this novel, because I have not read this before. But I figured I found this for very cheap, so I'll pick it up anyways. Because I've never actually seen this used before. Though there is a little bit of a damaged cover there that I can just tape up. And then we go into another King Arthur volume. This is the stories of King Arthur. This is retold by Blanche Winder, and it's illustrated. And it's just a little mass market retelling of King Arthur stories, and with a whole bunch of illustrations. And I'm a sucker for everything King Arthur, so I collect all these that I could find. There's King Arthur with stone there. I collect all kinds of volumes. I have a ton of little retellings like this already, big illustrated editions, and I hope to read them all. The interesting approach about this one though is I think the reteller here, Blanche Winder, goes out of their way to say that they're not following Thomas Malory, because they're saying Mallory's book doesn't contain all the tales, and so they're going back to older works that talk about King Arthur, and other than just Malory. So I find that a bit interesting, because most books like these that are geared towards children just retell Malory, and they don't really go much further than that. But this book seems to try to go against that, or at least take a different perspective. And I think that'll be a lot of fun to read. And then we have a book I have read already. I read this one this year. I think I read this in March. I think it was March. This is the Wizard of Earthsea, but look at that dorky cover. This is Sparrowhawk here transforming into a hawk, and then this is his friend here. But there's a lot of inaccuracies on this cover, and in the ebook edition that I read, there was I think an afterword to the Wizard of Earthsea, and written by Ursula K. Le Guin, and she mentions how she didn't have any control over the for most of her career, she didn't have any control over the cover artwork for this book, and that always infuriated her because all the characters are portrayed as just white males. Um, and she deliberately made the main character like a dark, or not dark brown, but a light brown, and his best friend is a black man. And if this is a scene that I recall, one of these people should be black. Uh, and she doesn't make a big deal about it in the novels because this was published in the 60s, and she says that it wouldn't have taken too well if it was made obvious, super obvious, but she doesn't hide it either. It's just kind of incorporated in the novel. It's not preachy or whatever. It's just part of the novel, and people who make the cover artwork just, I guess, never read the novel in order to reflect that. So, just a dorky little mass market of The Wizard of Earthsea, my first actual physical copy of this book. And then we get into some of the other books, just curious books that I found. This one here is a book I've never actually heard of. It's an anthology. It's called The Victorian Fairy Tale Book, with a really cool original cover. And this is edited by Michael Patrick Hearn, and it's part of the Pantheon Fairy Tale and Folktale Library. And it's just an anthology of fairy tales written by Victorian authors. Authors that you've heard of and authors that you have not heard of. And I'll read to you the table of contents. It has a story, The King of the Golden River by John Ruskin, The Pied Piper of Hamelon by Robert Browning, The Rose and the Ring by William Thackeray, The Magic Fishbone by Charles Dickens, Millot by Henry Morley, The Fairies by William Allingham, The Little Lame Prince and His Traveling Cloak by Dinah Maria Mullock Creagh. We have the Goblin Market by Christina Rossetti, The Necklace of Princess Friormond by Mary de Morgan, The Golden Key by George MacDonald, The Stolen Child by William Butler Yeats, The Selfish Giant by Oscar Wilde, The Brown Owl by Ford Madox Ford, Rocking Horse Land by Lawrence Housman, The Reluctant Dragon by Kenneth Grahame, The Deliverers of Their Country by E. Nesbit, and a selection from Peter Pan in Kensington Gardens by J. M. Barrie. So there's authors that I recognize and authors that I don't recognize. So that's the appeal of this book, even though I think everything in this book could be found in public domain. Having it all under one volume with the original illustrations for each one. The original illustrations for each one. Like they all have the illustrator was listed right by their names, but I didn't read those out. Illustrations for all these stories, and they're all just republished in this one volume, and I think it's helpful to have them all here. And I like fairy tale stories, and I also like Victorian retellings of things, so that all hits the mark there. I'll save that one for last, I think. Then we come to a couple works of history. We start off with The Great Mortality by John Kelly, An Intimate History of the Black Death and the Most Devastating Plague of All Time. And it's just a history of the Black Plague, or the Black Death, in the medieval era. So, if you're not aware, there was a Black Plague, which basically killed, estimates up to 1/3 to 2/3 of the entire population of Europe at the time. This plague that people didn't know what to do with, and was destroying, not impacting, was affecting everyone. And I caught myself there. So yes, this is a study of that period in history. And what's interesting is that I kind of poked around the introduction a bit on this book, and the author didn't actually go into this research subject, trying to write a book about the Black Plague. He was going to write a book about just diseases and pandemics in general, and he wanted to start off with history, history leading up to the modern age or whatever. But he got caught up in the history that he just wrote the book on as a history instead of the Black Plague. and I find that an interesting perspective. So here's that. I've never actually heard of this book before. I've seen other books on the Black Flag, but this one looks like to be more of a popular history, uh, at least based on the publisher. And this book feels like it's been read, so uh, well loved. And we come to a book that I actually didn't realize I had as an ebook, but I'm happy to have it anyways because it's been on my wish list for a while. It's Antony Beevor's book on Stalingrad. This is The Fateful Siege from 1942 to 43. If you're not familiar, this is a uh, devastating period in World War II history on the Eastern Front between Germany and Russia in the Russian city of Stalingrad, which was basically completely demolished uh, through like the bloodiest form of warfare just ever. It was a complete massacre, really, of Russian troops, and yet Russia still kind of won, and it's seen as like this pivotal moment because um, the Germans couldn't advance further than this, and Russia's kind of held the Germans back from invading based on off of this campaign. And this is just a whole book on that subject by Antony Beevor, probably the definitive work on the subject. And I want to read this in company with Vasily Grossman's two book set on as a novelization of this drama, because he's a Russian author that wrote Stalingrad, which only recently came out within like the last 5 years in a English translation. It was written way back in the 60s, but um, only recently came out in an English translation as like a basically the novel that comes before his famous Life and Fate, because Vasily Grossman is known for Life and Fate, uh, and so I want to read this. Then I want to read Vasily Grossman's novel called Stalingrad, and then his novel called Life and Fate. And I like to um, be acquainted with the history before I do that because, and not because this is a scribed reading, it's because I think it'll be fun. It'll be good to know the history uh, so that I can have a lot more fun, get a lot more out of the novels by Vasily Grossman. And this actually does have illustrations in it. Just an inset of soldiers and the battle here. So yeah, that's Stalingrad, work of World War II history. And then we have, I want to call this the Find, but it has a strong competitor. So it's another work of history. This is The Civilization of Europe in the Renaissance by John Hale. And it's just this big, fat, oversized book on the Renaissance. And it's very, very well illustrated, too. Just every few pages seems to be an illustration. I'm just opening the book at random and I'm getting illustrations just everywhere. They're not in color, unfortunately, uh, but they're just everywhere discussed in this volume. Uh, and it's exactly that. It's just this big fat book from the 90s, I believe, uh, of um, of the Renaissance. And there is a bit of a story behind this. I just poked around in the introduction too, which was written by his wife. Um, and she says that after he had finished writing this book, but he just finished writing it and sent the manuscript to the publisher to be like edited and corrected and revised and whatever. He had a stroke and he was like hospitalized for a long time. And he couldn't, while he was still around intellectually, he couldn't communicate verbally. So he wasn't involved in the process after that of putting this book into print. And I don't know if he survived that. I haven't looked it up whether or not he survived that stroke. Uh, but it's a very interesting aspect of this book, of just human drama, of having a stroke after you've published what would be considered your masterpiece, I think, right? Um, of history. And so his wife had to um, ask another scholar of this period to kind of take up the project um, and help it along into print. Um, yeah, it's a human story behind this, which I find adds a bit of meaning to this book, other than just it being like a scholarly work. There's a human behind it, and you get that in that preface there. This next book is a book I have read before, but just not in this form. This is the complete Narnia series in one volume, and I love this format, just having it in this big floppy paperback here with all the original illustrations. From each chapter heading, each has its own illustration, and this includes all, I think, 7 books, all just in one volume. I've never actually seen one like this before. I do have a box set of this entire work, which I've read twice, but I've never seen a one volume like this. And I actually have the whole series in ebook too, so I didn't really need this volume, but it was cheap, and it was all one volume, and all of the books in one volume. Even though I don't really care for that movie cover, I would have preferred that as the cover, just the big lion head, and put the queen on the spine or something. But still, it's a very good addition to have, and I'm glad to have it. So, and then we come to the other book that challenges for the find of the day. It's the last book. I'll be done yapping. It's the complete works of Montaigne in the Donald M. Frame translation, in this gorgeous Everyman's Library edition. Everyman's Library. I've seen this edition before. I've seen other people pick it up. So Montaigne, of course, is famous for his essays, which is all in here, translated by Donald M. Frame. But it also includes another 300 pages of a travel journal that he kept, and also his letters. A selection of, I don't know if it's all his letters. It says his complete works, so I assume it's all the letters of his that survive or that we have. So we have the first 1,000 pages is his essays, like his famous work of essays, and then the next 300 pages or so, 300 and some pages, are his journal that he traveled to, I think, when he traveled to Italy, and then also a bunch of letters that he wrote. So this is his complete works. I've been looking at this. It's very expensive online. But the thing is, when I found this at the thrift store, of course I was doing a jig in the hallway there, but then when I looked at the price, I was stopped in my tracks, because at the thrift store that I go to, books are never more than $6, unless they're like these oversized thing. Then they're maybe $10 or something. But this book was priced at $20. $20 for this thing at a used bookstore. And I was like, what do they think I am, a sucker? But then I put it into the cradle of my arm, and I carried it with me all the way to the front, where I paid the $20 for this thing. It's in basically new condition, but I've never seen a book priced at $20 at this thrift store before. It's like they knew what they had. But the thing is, I swallowed it anyways, because it says in the fold here that this is $43 in Canada. That's a bit of a lie, or at least not a lie. It's just old pricing, because on Amazon this is $54 brand new for this big fat work, and it's got beautiful, because these Everyman Library editions, you could take the dust jacket off, and then you still have this beautiful stately volume. And this book has no annotations. It looks like I bought it brand new, really. So paying $20 for a book that would normally cost me $54, I just swallowed the pill and went with it. And here I have it here. I do have another version of this work. I have the Screech translation from Penguin, in that big fat Penguin classic, which I have not read, but I would like to. But I'm always on the lookout for new translations or different translations of works that I already own. And I also have a very curious hardcover of a 3-volume set of this from like the early 20th century. I don't even know the translator's name, but they translated the essays in a 3-volume set, and I found the first volume used for like $2 or something, and it had the coolest dust jacket that was almost completely torn apart, but I kept the cool part. It was just uh, the like a sketch of Montaigne on the front, and it was quite neat. So I kept that, and then I threw the rest of the dust jacket away, and I only have the one volume because it's very expensive to find the other few volumes online, and I don't really need the other volumes. I just found it used for $2 and whatever. Actually, if you look in the backlog of my channel, look up my library tour for the Shakespeare or Renaissance uh, video where I go through that shelf. It's on that shelf in that video, and I show you the dust jacket piece that I kept. But anyways, this will be joining that shelf, or at least what's left of that shelf, because I did rearrange all my books since I did my library tour. But yeah, I'm very pleased with this naughty book haul, and I don't think I'll be buying any more books until September. So that'll be it for now, BookTube. Please scold me in the comments, or at least tell me that I did well and pat me on the back. Or yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, BookTube.